All right, time is now 1800 and I'll call to order. You can call order executive session or a regular meeting, then go into executive session.
Start with the regular meeting and then four. Sure.
Time is now 1800 and I'll call to order our regularly scheduled McMinnville Fire District meeting on June 13th, 2024, and call on Chief Godfrey for roll call of members.
President Garvin,
Here.
Vice President Smith,
Here.
Secretary Pratt, Treasurer Pratt,
Here.
Director Sparrow,
Here.
Member Leonard,
Here.
Member Redmond,
Here.
Member Scales,
Here.
Member Levy,
Here.
and Member Budzik will be on after executive session per end.
Thank you for that. It's now time for Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll call on Director Sparrow to lead us in that. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that.
Mr. President, one correction.
I'm turned the unit. So I was gonna bring it for some reason. But I didn't buy it.
Director Pratt, our Secretary Pratt, we see that you joined us. We've done roll call and pledge of allegiance. We're about to go into executive session. I just wanted to verify that you're by yourself and nobody else can hear your audio at this point in time. And you're muted if you're trying to talk right now.
You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Are you by yourself and nobody else can hear your audio?
Okay, so because not.
Yeah.
And the very easy for us is something else we should get to that.
If you want to kick him out of the Zoom and we can.
Yes, right, what you do second one?
Can we mute him for now?
There are.
And then Budget Committee member Budzik, nobody else can hear your audio right now. It looks like maybe you have AirPods in.
I do have AirPods in.
Okay. Thank you. Once we figure out Secretary Pratt's situation, we'll enter into executive session and I'll call on Michelle to read us in.
He's on.
Yeah, just kick him out. All right. All right, the time is now 18:24 and we'll resume our regular board meeting. First up, we have old business, committee discussion.
It's just the continuation of last meeting.
Last,
On with the questions that were brought up, we said we'd bring information back.
we'll call on Chief Godfrey and Finance Manager Hunter to brief us on their additional information.
Thank you. Ms. Redmond, so I'm gonna answer your first question. So you had 2 questions, which we put some slides together for you, but I'm gonna answer, at least I believe I'm gonna answer your question. So your question is how was that the wages increased so significantly? So if you look at your packet for the financial overview in the operations fire division,
Yes, division, got it.
the top number there, the projected budget of that $1.695 million. So if you turn the page and you go to professional services, which is the third one down from the top.
Page. Yes, got it.
So if you look, if you remember last meeting, and I can get back into it if we need to, but last meeting, the way the city budgeted, they took multi-millions of dollars and put it into a pot, and everything was drawn out of that pot. In
Okay.
this case, professional services, as you see, was $2.4 million. But the expenditure was $350 million. So what we did this year is we prepared those divisional budgets, so you can accurately see moving forward what's truly being expended out of those budget line items for the future. Is it confusing today? Yes.
So professional services in this case also included some of the city labor.
Correct.
It wasn't just contracts, it was internal labor as
It
well.
was kind of a, I'm gonna use it as a catch-all.
Mushmash.
Yeah, and so, the numbers are there, we found the numbers, I mean, it was a lot of, digging and such. But there were several of those, I mean, again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds. But if you look.
No, but that's obviously a really big one.
Yeah, there were several of those where you'll see very large numbers, but then the expenditure is small. Well, when we broke them out divisionally, we actually did actual costs in those divisional budgets. And again, I know it doesn't help you looking back, 6-9 months.
Right.
But it will moving forward, so you can actually fiscally be able to see what we're budgeting and what we expended, and then also better make recommendations to the budget committee of change, either an increase and or a decrease in line items. That's all.
Yes, that does, because that was a big part of what I was missing when I was sort of going through finding the pieces and missed a big piece. And I agree, this first year, it's really tough because you've got this very different structured budget. You just got to kind of muddle through.
The other thing in those city numbers is they were built to basically absorb the city running and billing for all their staff time throughout the year. And basically January 1, that for the most part stopped outside of some IT and some basic HR stuff.
Yeah, and no, and because I've been attending the meetings, I was very aware of all the contracts and the discussions and the amounts, so those all made sense to me. It was just kind of that missing that was a big chunk of the actual labor from the fire department now in that line item. So, thank you.
And then I want to circle back to one more thing, Mr. Leonard, you had talked to me or asked me before that you had seen, or at least what you believe to be a 50% increase in the district budget from last year's city projected budget. Last year's city projected budget was 17 million and such. This year's district budget is 19 million and such. So the 2 million extra is the additional $2, or not additional, but $2 per thousand that we got as a district. It's about a $2 million difference. Respectfully, though, there is the $4.5 million loan to get us from July 1st. So that's why you see almost a $24 million budget. The actual operating costs is a little over 19. So it's about a $2 million difference. But that comes from that increase in the cost per thousand, the $2 per thousand. Now I'm gonna have Finance Manager Sams talk a little bit, Ms. Redmond, about, you had 2 questions. The first question was the 60-40, or at least semi 60-40 split between benefits and then the actual salaries.
Mhm.
The second question you had was how did we get to basically the bird sheet? How did we get to that 4.5?
Yeah, the
million?
cash flow.
Yeah, and we put together a couple slides and Mr. Sands is gonna go through those slides and please feel free to ask questions.
So yeah, here's a breakdown of our personnel costs on a monthly basis. They are paid bi-weekly for twice a month, but this would be a full month's cost. And so I pulled these numbers out of GNSA, so these are actual numbers. And so it's a little bit muddled already, but then we have a number that comes out as a direct deposit to all of our employees of the district. So that's your $318,000 a month in what is net take-home pay by employees of the district. Then the payroll tax is a combination of what we withhold for state income tax for the employee, as well as the taxes that the employer pays for Medicare, Social Security, and all.
Can you tell me what the split is between employee paid and employer paid for the payroll tax?
I mean, it's
Roughly.
mostly, it's your standard state and federal.
Yeah, I'm just very used to seeing gross pay and then the employer piece because the employees have earned their piece and, so.
Gross piece is going to be in the 6.2% for Social Security and 1.45 for Medicare. And then.
To the limits,
What?
up to the limit, the salary limits. And-
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then a little bit of, I think there's like a Oregon Workers Benefit Fund.
Mhm.
So anyways, our pieces do kind of standard pieces.
So, all right, so that makes a big,
But when in GNSA, those are all kind of lumped in together. You have to really parse them out to see what is employee versus employer.
got it.
I would be hoping in the future to be able to, by GL, line out what is the city versus what is the district versus what is, on the employer being withheld from their paycheck.
Yep.
And then our next largest cost is our PERS. And we, grandfathered in kind of, I don't know what the term would be necessarily, but off of the city's, rates through 6/30, so through June 30th of 2025, we're on the PERS rate that the city of McMinnville had. And I can't say exactly with your numbers, Steve, about why we're at 62% of whatever you said we're versus the city at 58. And I don't know what department you may have compared.
I took a random group of large departments or large payrolls of the city. And used them. I didn't do every single one of them.
So
And then I took yours and the city, I had 57.6% was benefits compared to the presented budget here was 63.2%.
so
And they may not be compared, they may be an apples and oranges comparison, but I was just curious if you could tell me.
PERS has two different rates. So
Yeah.
police and fire have a higher rate than general service employees, and we're
Well, that's a problem.
predominantly police and fire, I'm a general service, but
Yeah.
large bulk of our staff.
39 of our employees are not in that, and 10 of our employees are in, well, actually, that's not true either, because I'm in, so.
Yeah, exactly.
About 90, more than 90% of our employees are police.
And so tier 1 and tier 2 PERS rate is 28%. And then on top of that, the IAP is another 6%. So we're looking at 34% pension benefits.
So that would account for the most of that difference then. Is that what you're
Yeah,
suggesting?
I'm suggesting, I haven't looked at the numbers exactly, but I'm saying if you were taking a broad thing of the city, which is gonna be mostly
Down on particular items, so thank you.
Yeah.
So there's that piece, and then health insurance, or with NFRA. And the rest of it, I gets to be quite small potatoes in comparison to some of those larger ones.
Yeah, and knowing that that's an employee net pay, not employee gross pay, then the rest of the percentages make sense to me. They looked high because I was thinking, well, if that's gross pay, those seem high, but if it's net pay, then it makes more sense, so.
Pardon my ignorance with the acronym VIVA, what is that?
Variable expense benefit account.
Voluntary
It's like-
employee benefit.
Yeah, it's like it's an employee account that you or the employer can put money into, and it can be utilized for medical expenses. I use it for glasses.
Okay.
Because at $500, these are $700, which means I don't get an eye exam. So you can put money into VIVA,
Okay,
braces for your kids, things like that.
Co-pays,
Co-pays.
there's a whole IRS list of stuff that you can spend.
just, I hadn't seen that term.
Yeah, just like a HSA.
It's the technical benefits term, because they make it complex.
So this is what we've prepared for the breakdowns of fringe, what we call fringe benefits on the all rolled out.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
thank you. That does answer my question.
Okay, and then to address the burn rate on a monthly basis.
Sorry for you people like me that can't see we did the best we could.
So you will see that very top number was the total personnel cost from the previous slide. And then here's a list of our monthly expenses, whether it is to maintain the building. So things like floor repairs up in the day room, kitchen appliance repairs, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. It's not uncommon to have contractors in here maintaining our building. And keeping it functioning on a monthly basis. And then for like admin supplies, I mean, that's, printing, I mean, kind of your standard, break room supplies, cleaning supplies and restrooms, some food and everything for banquets and events. Our general liability, a general insurance, like general property and liability insurance is $200,000 a year. So we broke that out over 12 months.
This amount is what the question was, is how did we get to the $4.5 million number? This equates to $4.438 million for the 5 months in which we would potentially need that fund. I think the other question, Ms. Redmond, was about the contingency side of things, if you will. And we're very light on that side of things when you look at it from a fiscal number. 5 to 10% is very common, as well as some people use 3 months worth of full expenditures. And you can see that with our monthly expenditures, that's not a lot of money. Most of us would say $2 million is a lot of money, but
No,
in the grand scheme of things, it is not. And that's why we don't want to put ourselves in a predicament where we have a catastrophic failure of a motor or an engine or something like that. That we did this last year. It was just the city loaned us $3.9, we ended up spending pretty close to accurate. And we paid it back right after the taxes came in. So it's the same concept, it's just your bank.
And just so you all are aware, when property owners pay their taxes, this county collects them and then remits them in the latter 2 weeks of November generally. And so we see about 90% of our tax revenue coming in that 2 week period, in about 3 to 4 installments per se.
most people pay to get the discount, so they pay.
And so,
So, and then it looks like if I'm reading this correctly, we're expecting to end this year with maybe 990,000. That's kind of the requirements not allocated in the projected this year, ballparkish. And so that's kind of, but that basically is 1 month of operating costs.
The ending fund, are you looking at the loans app?
No. I was looking at the 994, the total requirements not allocated, operating contingency.
Yeah, 1.7.
But I'm looking in the end of this year, 23, 24.
That is the amount,
no,
the carrier,
Carryover. So, but essentially that's 1 month.
yes.
That would
But-
get us through 1 month at best.
That was that was from the contingency from last year, but we are carrying over, just so we're clear, we're carrying over more than that. We're carrying over in contingency, approximately 1.7 million is what will be in this year's budget for issues.
Right, but what are we, at the end of this year, at the end of June 30th this year?
2.768 million.
Okay, but 985,000 of that is the LoSAP money. So,
No,
No?
we don't include that.
okay, so the 2768 is what we're carrying over. So in theory, you could potentially consider using some of that carryover and reducing the loan.
Could consider that. If we still, at that amount of money, still would not even be at our 3 months.
Right. No, I wouldn't. And then you don't want to use, you need to leave yourself some room for stuff that happens. So. I mean, it just strikes me as we move forward, trying to build that up over time, so we don't have to take that loan.
That is an
that's-
absolute 1000% accurate statement. We are absolutely committed to working towards.
Or at
that
least
future. In fact,
Bring the loan
I'm
down.
very proud, quite frankly, that in the first 6 months,
Right,
we're at 2.76. So, but you are not wrong, and I do agree that our goal should be to continue to report. I will say, it's very difficult as a new fire district and, a fire station and apparatus at millions of dollars. We have about $4 million worth of needs to this fire station that have been deferred maintenance. And we have millions of dollars in apparatus needed replacement, but we will absolutely.
yeah, I mean, it just, having sat through the district, the board meetings and listened, I mean, it does seem like the city really left the fire department in a bad spot. I mean, so many things were not replaced timely, it was aging, it was not run maybe the way any of us would want it to be. And now you're paying the price, we're all paying the price to get it back in shape after the city's management. Okay, but that makes sense and I get it now. Thank you.
So those are the prepared so we've gone through the entire budget last meeting. Those were the questions that were still outstanding that were related to us, but we're happy to answer.
So I do have a couple of other things. We had asked last week and Commissioner Garvin had talked about the city's forecast was 3.9 something for property tax increases. I went and looked at the county website, and as best I can figure out, they're forecasting the property tax increase to be less than the city. They're forecasting about 3.2%. We're at a 4.75, so higher than both of those. That concerns me that we're maybe being over generous. The impact would be, we have less contingency available. I mean, it potentially, if you use the county number, it's a difference of another $133,000. And so it, drops our relatively low contingency down even further if the county's closer to right on the forecast. I would personally would rather see us use at best the city's number or the county's number or something closer to those, just because, I mean, the city is a big piece of the district. But then there's the rural area that, has its own rate.
So I can't speak of where the city came to their numbers. We put the slide back up on the board.
Right, great, because you've got the 5-year average.
We utilized a 5-year average. We didn't, and took a conservative approach to the 5-year average. I don't know where the city came up with their numbers. But I can tell you that's where we came up with ours, and on top of it, took a conservative approach.
Yeah.
It will be helpful once we have full district numbers. I mean, these, as we talked last 2 weeks ago, those are city of McMinnville as well as the McMinnville rural combined. So we did our best, again, going back 5 years and then took a conservative approach.
Right. No, I went and looked at the county number and we'd asked about the city number. So they're both even more conservative right now. There's the two new positions, the mechanic, one seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, our equipment's critical to the operations. You know, you need it, and especially aging equipment, it's gonna take work. The public resource specialist, I think is what it was called. I'm curious, what would be the impact if that position isn't filled or it isn't filled for 6 months?
It would be business as usual. I would not say it is, well, first of all, I'm not sure that it would be filled for 6 months, quite frankly. We're not gonna fill anything until contract negotiations are done. We have a better understanding of what that comes to.
And when are you anticipating, what's your target to complete those?
July 1st. That's the target.
Okay, good luck on that.
We're a couple months out, but realistically speaking. So that it's, as I think I said it last week too, that is not our first filled position. That position, the person that this would be backing up is the one who bills our $12 million worth of ambulance revenue. But they're also the ones that answer the phones. Donna backs them up also, and it constantly pulls away from their work. She also is in an environment, she has HIPAA records, but she's at the front desk. So everybody walking
Ideal.
as part of that. So being able to remove that individual and allow her to do her job fiscally will help us. But I think you said this before, and I don't disagree. It is not going to be our first hire. It's if things come to fruition the way we believe that they will, and after our big ticket items such as contract negotiations and such are completed, that's when we'll be looking at the position.
So probably realistically, till you have a person in place, optimistically, October, if everything went perfectly smooth and they can start immediately. And
Yeah, that's perfect.
it.
I think you're close to 6 months, like, theoretically.
Right. And it doesn't make a huge difference in the budget if you shift it to us planning 6 months versus planning the full year, 30,000 plus the benefits, so maybe 40.
The issue with stripping that money out of the budget is you have to allocate the funds to be able to hire them. So if we did get the opportunity to hire them in October, but we made that budget adjustment, we had handcuffed the chief operationally from being able to make that hire in October. We didn't have that built into the budget.
Right, and it's, if you said, you know, if October is the most realistic, then you could pick up, but it's a tiny amount in the scheme of it, and it's not like it's gonna just get frittered away. I don't think, if it stays there. So.
Bring us back to assessed value, we just don't.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you 5-year average. But what, you said something the other day, and I don't see it here. What do you think your collection rate will be? And is that baked into this?
Yeah, it's 97, 98%.
Think so?
That's historic. We picked it up. Yeah, we're very successful in collection rate.
So the reason I ask is because I don't think I made 96, 97% with the rural district.
I was just saying to Janet's point, people who have a mortgage is typically wrapped into that mortgage payment, and the mortgage escrow takes advantage of that. So, I mean,
Oh, I understand that. Yeah,
Oh,
I got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets of what we did in the rural, and did all those same averages.
See, get those 3% up.
It seemed to me we were more like 96% in
Well,
collection.
and it may be people in the city are higher,
Maybe,
in the rural
it could
or
be, yeah.
less, and the city's is a much bigger
Right.
percentage of it too, so. Okay,
any questions from number 11?
Nope.
Any questions from committee member Budsick online?
Sorry, unmuting. No, I'm good.
Thank you. Any questions from committee member Scales?
Nothing, thank you.
Any questions from treasurer Traft?
Nothing, thank you.
Secretary Pratt?
Nothing.
Thank you. Director Sparrow, anything? No question. Vice President Smith?
No questions.
Committee member Redmond, any additional questions?
No, I think you've answered all of mine.
So the main thing is that we move forward with a budget that we can propose. For timing reasons, we need to land on that tonight, so I just want to make sure that we are there before we move on this evening.
I will move that we accept the budget as presented.
Second,
Okay, so we have a motion by Budget Committee Member Leonard and a second by Committee Member Redmond. Can I call on Chief Godfrey to pull or Michelle to pull the committee on votes?
so I have one pause question. Do we need to get public comment before we take action? You have public comment here
That's for any public comment.
on the budget, but it's on the budget, so I don't know if it makes sense, or that's before for the fire district board.
I took that as public comment for the board, but I guess it does say budget in there.
We can open that now.
I just, to the extent that people are here or online.
Do we have anybody? After all that, you can't say aye. This is a censored meeting.
Chief Hannafin, is there anybody on Zoom?
Just got under.
Okay.
Okay, no, just.
a point of order.
check.
Alright, so can we proceed with the roll call vote of the budget?
Okay, President Garvin,
Aye.
Vice President Smith,
Yes.
Secretary Pratt,
Aye.
Treasurer Traff,
Aye.
Director Sparrow,
Aye.
Member Leonard,
Aye.
Member Redmond,
Aye,
Member Scales,
Aye.
Member Loving,
Aye.
Member Budsick.
Aye.
All ayes, no nays, so the motion passes.
Alright, thank you for that.
Just a point of order, it will be posted, well, we'll send it to be posted tomorrow. And so then it'll still be an opportunity for public comment at the board meeting if something else.
the board meeting in 2 weeks.
Probably won't see it in the paper till late next week. Yeah, gave us free info, but we'll turn it in.
They might make their online, you never know.
So we made the recommendation of the proposed budget to the fire district board as a budget committee. We don't need another meeting. Or anything for good of the order before we adjourn? All right, with that, I'll adjourn our 13th meeting at 18:53. And would like to thank the budget committee for putting in the time and digging into the weeds and asking the questions, and to you on Zoom for taking the time as well, dealing with our technical difficulties.